In a vast wasteland of entertainment where radio has become obsolete, stands an embittered man teetering at the edge of sanity. With help from radio friends, he's about to embark on a global mission that would change the course of history as we know it. Broadcasting live from the secret studios on the banks of the Brandywine River in Delaware is Mitchell K.C. Hill. And up to the Great White North in Vancouver is Alexander Knight.
All right, here we are again, up to show number 37. Many have said that we wouldn't make it this far, but somehow, some way, we've been able to make it. So here I am. I'm looking at myself. Myself is slightly delayed, so it's kind of weird being able to see a 20-second delay. But anyhow, that's just inside radio talk. I'm Mitchell K.C. Hill. I'm the old guy. The new guy is my good friend Alexander Knight, who represents today's media and today's new technology, which we're trying every day to try to embrace it. All that disturbing new technology that I love so much. But Alex, good to have you here. We got a great guest coming here in just a second. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm super excited about today. Thanks for joining us. This is The Last Angry DJ, the show where we interview luminaries in the broadcast world, not just broadcast, but I mean, we interview engineers, DJs, marketing people, radio station owners. I like to think of it as this is the show that is the intersection between old media and new media. It's a recurring theme on the show, and we're going to be talking about that today. And actually, one of the areas that I'm particularly interested in is observing consumer trends, and we're going to be talking about that today with our guest, Mitch.
Yeah, and the fact that we talk about and lament the fact that radio has got some interesting challenges. A lot of businesses have been focused on how to maintain their market share, the way they do business. It seems like it'd be a post-COVID thing for most of us. So I sort of wanted to reach out to people in related businesses, and we have talked about the motion picture industry, the business of showing motion pictures in theaters where people gather together and share the experience. And I couldn't think of a better guest to bring on than Penn Ketchum, who owns a number of very, very high-end theaters, cinemas in our area. I want to welcome you along, Penn, to our show number 37. We're going to describe exactly the challenges there are as we move forward into the next century of what's the post-COVID world, especially if you're running a movie theater and you're expecting things to change a little bit. Have you faced some challenges since COVID?
Wow. Right from the introduction into have you faced some challenges?
Right between the eyes.
No, man, COVID was a breeze.
Let's hope so.
No, I mean the big challenge we faced was the short term almost like just triage of the governors and the officials that closed down movie theaters, and we just literally were forced to sell popcorn on the sidewalk and sort of scrape by. But once you get past sort of the initial shock of COVID and all the same challenges that honestly every business or 95% of the businesses in the world faced, I'm thinking about my friends that own restaurants and stuff like that. And we certainly weren't the only one sort of affected by it. But once you get past into 21 and 22, a lot of the challenges we faced were really more related to challenges that came out of Hollywood, more so than challenges from our customers. Our customers always remained game. They never stopped wanting to come to theaters. The challenge was really on the supply side, trying to get product. And we had to help Hollywood learn some tough lessons. But the audience never left. They just wanted some product.
I was talking to a good friend of mine. His name is Jim Morris. He's the president of Pixar. And he was sharing with me, we went to school together. We sharing with some stories about the challenges that we all live with in this post-COVID world. People are changing their habits a lot. I mean, if you're in a business, you're dealing with the fact that not everybody comes to the office for the full week like they used to. It used to be a 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday. It's changed for everybody. And along comes the movie strike for you, because that affected release dates. So the big release dates all got affected. I think we were all dealing with a reluctance motion picture industry to release on certain dates that we're used to getting, the summer blockbusters, and just when you thought it was safe to come out, all this weird stuff comes along. So I've watched very carefully what you've done, Penn, with your theaters, and I think you've innovated in every possible way what to be done. But the things that you have going for you is that you're not afraid to try new things. I mean, one of the things you did, didn't you do like a drive-in theater thing when people didn't want to gather quite during the? I know I'm still talking about COVID. I'll get off the subject, but I wanted
No,
to
that's
get it
fine.
get it out
Our
of the way.
drive-in was wild. We literally rented a blow-up screen and put it in the parking lot, and it was so popular and well received that we ended up installing an actual screen literally on the side of the building. And we bought literally well, before we bought the shed to put the projector in, we had to we bought some scaffolding and set it up in the middle of the parking lot. And every night, my team and I had to go in, and I mean, if you've ever been around a movie projector, you know that they're quite heavy. So it's not something two people can lift. So we would lift it up onto the cart and drag the cart out to the parking lot. And then we had this chain system, which was, all these techs. I always think about them when they're telling me about why their projector is better than the next guy's projector. I'm like, well, how's it going to hold up when I wrap some chains around it and hoisted up a homemade scaffolding in the middle of a parking lot, And these tech guys who take themselves so seriously, would just die if they saw, what we were doing with their equipment. But
Well,
it was great.
the motion picture industry and showing movies, a lot of people still think it's these big arc projectors with some grizzled old guy with a cigarette dangling out of the side of his mouth,
Right.
changing, big 70 millimeter film prints.
Right.
It's not that way. It's all digital. You got a big Christie digital projector and a Dolby system. And,
Yeah.
you guys have very, very modern theaters. What is the difference between, if you look back into a time tunnel and said, here's what we are now, here's what we were then, what's different about the way you do what you do?
Well, I think how I would answer that for my theaters is the same as any of the theaters in the country that they're in my sort of anecdotal experience. There's two types of movie theaters. There's movie theaters that stay up on the trends and are always looking for ways to improve their business, and that's certainly a Penn Cinema, that we're in that group. And then there's other theaters that invest the least amount of money possible into their theaters until they're forced to. Like, so for example, the last guys to convert from 35 millimeter to digital, they only did so because one by one the studios stopped releasing their movies on 35 millimeter film, and that was sort of what had to happen in order for some of the theater owners to make that switch to digital. But when I look back about what's different about it is that I need to hire people that are comfortable working on computers. If people who have sort of that you don't need to be a computer tech, but there has to be a comfort level with what it means to open windows and close tabs, and drop down menus exist, and if you don't see it on the screen, it's probably on there somewhere, like when you were setting me up and I didn't scroll down far enough to find the output that you wanted. It's that kind of thing. You have to have a comfort level with digital media, and that's kind of the biggest difference.
Saw a lot of that. I mean, I did some branding work for a full disclosure, and I'm used to working with like a 30-inch screen, and I do a lot of motion graphics work as one of my side hustles. And I was shocked and amazed when I did some branding for you, and we walked into your IMAX theater in Lidditz, and it's like, whoa! It's like this stuff comes at you, and things that were flying around the screen and did stuff. You're so used to that little tiny 30-inch screen in front of you. Now you get this giant IMAX. The theater experience cannot be duplicated at home. Are you folks listening to me? You cannot duplicate the entire theater experience, and it has a lot to do with everything. Technical, size does matter, and the fact that you're there experiencing something with like-minded people that want to react to things that are going on. I'll never forget watching Star Wars, the first movie. I waited in line on 30th Street in Philadelphia. I guess it was the Chestnut Theater there. And I guess it was what it was called. And we started watching that movie, and when Darth Vader walked into that room and the music played, the entire crowd went, ah! like that. It was like amazing. It's a shared experience. And unless you've got some really crazy relatives, you can't really do that at home. It's a different experience. I'm not going to say it's bad because obviously it's the thing we deal with now. But that shared experience of going into a theater, watching the movie, it's bigger than life. If you have the luck to see something how did you run? How did you run Oppenheimer? Did you do the 70 perf? Did you do the sideways whiz bang thing? Was that a turning point for people being concerned about? Well, this is different. Was Oppenheimer a turning point for you?
No. I mean, Oppenheimer was huge because it became a cultural phenomenon with Barbie, and both of those movies on their own, it was like 2 + 2 = 5,
Right.
and they were both really solid with terrific audiences, but the synergy that they created really elevated both titles even past what they both would have been terrific by themselves, but the combined buzz really elevated both titles to the next level. But it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a turning point. It was definitely the highlight of the year, the same way Deadpool's the highlight of 2024 so far. Um, but I always think it's important. You talked a few minutes ago about having a shared experience and just an experience in general. And I always use the analogy like everybody has a kitchen in their house, but sometimes you want to go out to eat. And what we find is our best customers are usually the same people who have the best home theaters. So we are not the least bit threatened by streaming or people with home movies, cinemas, or I got a 75-inch screen. Well, I always tell people like, well, I measure my screen in feet. You measure yours in inches. Call me when you measure yours in feet. And that always gets a good laugh. But it's the same thing, like I said a second ago about the restaurants. Like people want to go out, like, and that's what we're providing is something to do with your loved ones, with your friend or your family, your date, your girlfriend. I always say, you want to get away from your parents, and now that I'm older, I always say, oh, you want to get away from your kids, So, um, but that's something that we take really seriously at Penn Cinema, and I think that's something that separates us and allows us to excel in the business is that at the core of our being is the understanding of what we're doing. The movie is important and that's great, but the real driver is people want to get out and they want to see other human beings and they want to have that shared common experience and they want to get out of their living room for a minute. And that's what we strive to provide. So my team has always frequently reminded that the people who walk through our doors could have walked through any door. They could have decided to go hang out at the mall or go golfing or go bowling or whatever. And for whatever reason, they decided to come to our place. And for that, we should be incredibly grateful every time we see somebody walk through the door. So we try to operate from a place of gratitude. But again, the essential element is the shared experience.
Yeah, and that's true. And what's very interesting, and again, I'll draw the parallels to other media that are challenged with today's world. A lot of this is a correction that's not picking on media in the theater or media on the radio or media in streaming or et cetera. It's the same pressures from everywhere that's changing the way people are
Sure.
entertained and informed. And you have to be up on that. And you seem to be a guy that's willing to embrace that. Radio is having a problem because they still use a lot of their methodology that worked for them in the 80s, and they're trying to apply it now in the aughts. And it's like, come on, guys, you got to change things. You got to do things differently. It needs to be more of a shared experience, like we were just talking about. Radio's always thought that, well, we kind of lead the pack, so we're going to throw it out there, and you're going to love it because we're the Toastmasters of consumerism. Right. No, they're not. They're not reflecting what people really want. On the other hand, you've made some interesting moves that kind of shake the business up. Are there other people that are theater owners like yourself that are thinking the same way? Do you guys gather sometimes in a smoke-filled room and share horror stories?
Well, we don't really smoke anymore, but it's really funny. Um, our trade association recently voted to undergo the process of changing the name of our trade association because our trade group is the National Association of Theater Owners, aka NATO. And so we decided we would try to rename, let's try to rename ourselves and not be, a world power, group. So we're trying to come up with a different name. But yeah, there's a National Association of Theater Owners, which does include Regal and AMC and Cinemark and all the big boys. But there's also a really strong portion of that organization that is driven by independent theater owners. And of course, we have advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages of being independent is that we can do whatever we want. I can be very innovative on a whim, and I can move schedules around, and I know, because I'm the guy dealing with the studios, I know exactly what the parameters are and what I can get away with and what I can't. And with that knowledge in my head, and then when I'm in the lobby, it's a very short. I don't have to translate what I'm seeing in the lobby to somebody who's going to translate it to a boss who's going to email it to somebody in London to get approval to switch a movie. So we have some advantages in terms of the flat nature of our organization, and then we have some disadvantages because there's a lot of efficiencies when you have one person booking 500 screens. And sometimes the studios, they all claim that they don't, but we know that they do. They do special favors for the bigger chains, and sometimes they cut better deals, and that's just something that you have to live with as one of the smaller guys on the scene. But Penn Cinema is in a very unique position because we compete. Like this weekend, we were ahead of one of the biggest theaters in Pennsylvania. We beat the King of Prussia Mall in this weekend. So that's a huge feather in our cap. And we're usually in the top 10 of our market, which includes the eastern half of Pennsylvania, from Harrisburg down to Philly, and then like Cherry Hill area of New Jersey. And we're usually in the top 10. But this weekend we were number 4, so we were really happy with that. That's really, really fun for us. But I was saying what makes us unique is we do a lot of business on the high end in the market, but all the other top 10 theaters are Regal, Cinemark, AMC. So it's a unique position to be a small independent theater and operating on that high level.
What do you other theater owners do, or chains, if you will, do that really just wrinkles your butt? I mean, what do they do sometimes? Is it, serving beer or ultra reclining? I tried one of those places, by the way. It has this ultra reclining chairs with the massage. Oh, it does put me to sleep. So I never get to find out what the end of the movie was. What are they doing out there that's just absolutely just wrinkles your butt?
Well, I don't care what they do because, if they're doing something stupid, then that's just going to drive business to my theater. And if they're doing something smart, I'm just going to steal their idea and employ it myself.
Alex, would you mind popping in here just a second? I know that I've kind of thrown this question in a weird direction, but what do you see it as a younger guy that's very connected to current technology and streaming? Right. How do you see the parallels going?
Well, there's definitely. First of all, I will say that between the United States and Canada, there are a lot of similar struggles. I think if you're a movie theater owner, I think that there are a lot of challenges in any country, really. But as far as the parallels, I see a lot of issues with the general attitude of consumers being, well, I have a big screen TV at home. The theater experience in my home, in my living room, is good enough. And to me, that's really the enemy of great, because people are not going out to the theaters anymore. And yeah, you can make the argument, okay, well, there's not a lot of great movies in the theater, which I completely disagree with. But that's the real challenge, is people are just waiting for stuff to come on streaming, and they're not going out to the theater experience anymore. And I don't think it is just solely the increase in costs of tickets and the increase in cost in foods, because I remember when I was a kid going to the theater, for a family of 4 or 5, it was never super cheap. Yes, it's more expensive now, but I don't think anybody ever called it cheap. So I don't think that's the only reason. I think this is a multi-layered, nuanced, complex problem. And I would say it started with Netflix as soon as they started with that streaming service. And it's kind of you can see the number, you probably track those trends with streaming services as, fewer and fewer people just bother going to the theater because they're just lazy and they just want to watch it at home.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that to me, the corner was turned when they started doing these crazy MCU blockbuster movies that cost so much money to put together, and they were more on spectacle and less on story. When Oppenheimer came out, there's a great story. We know how it comes out. There's a big bomb that goes off. But anyhow, the fact that they're concentrating on telling a story using that landscape that's up there on that wall, and that, again, the shared experience we talked about, it's different. And I think there's a correction going on right now. Penn, I don't know how much you get involved with the people that make movies. It is show business. There's a lot of bean counters up there in Hollywood making decisions that don't necessarily jibe with the vision of the directors and the writers that are out there. How do you think things are going? Are we getting a little more back on the territory of telling great stories like we used to?
That question assumes that I agree with both of your comments about the direction of this. It's like, I believe this, that, and the other thing. Why do you believe that? What can you provide some examples that support the argument that I
I'm
just
not trying
made?
to be sneaky. Sorry about that.
I disagree with the premise. I think it's all related to the content, the decrease, and now it's rebounding, and you're seeing over the last 3 years the movie attendance is increasing in the direct proportion, the exact same amount to which the amount of available movies is increasing. And so last year in 2024, we have 95 new release, or what's called wide release movies. So a movie that's going to be released in a minimum of 2,000 screens. And in 2025, we have 108 movies projected to be released in over 2,000 screens. And I think that I know that for my business, we planned our budget to increase attendance the same percent that 95 increases to 108. So there's one place where we disagree. And then the other is on the money thing is, I love the old guys that come in and tell me they remember when movies were 25 cents. And I ask them, how much money did you make an hour when your movie cost 25 cents? Movies have always been the cheapest option for families to go out and spend the night. When that guy paid 25 cents to see a movie, he was making 50 cents an hour. You know what I mean? And now these guys are making $18 an hour. So there's it is expensive, but it remains one of the cheapest options for people. If you want to go out and spend the evening doing something, movies are among your cheapest options. And that's always the way it's been, and that's the way it remains. It is a pretty I didn't bring our NATO reports, but I would be happy to forward them to you. We have all kinds of bean counters that track that stuff for the big boys. But yeah, so I have seen. I think Oppenheimer. You mentioned I completely agree on Oppenheimer. I mean, the reason why, and same with Barbie. Honestly, Barbie was prettier and pinker, but both of them were successful because they told great stories. And it's all of. I mean, the successful movies are all about storytelling. And it's really you look at a beautiful movie that's out right now called We Live in Time, starring Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, and this is a simple movie. It's nobody's going to remember it 2 years from now. Nobody's going to write books about it. But it's a simple love story, and it has humanity, and it has faith, and it has hardship and love, and it's an incredible story. And then there's another movie out right now which I didn't like as much that apparently a lot of other people like, called Honora. And one of the things that I thought was missing, and it got like Best Picture from Cannes, but what I thought was missing from it was a compelling story. Like, it was an interesting story. It's kind of fun. I summed up the entire movie by saying it was Pretty Woman gone bad. Um, but and it was compelling just in the sense that I wanted to see what happened. But like when I left Oppenheimer, Barbie, We Live in Time, some of these movies that stick with you, because you want to have a shared experience. And sometimes the shared experience is just having a good time and getting out of your house and laughing. And then sometimes the shared experience is having a story that affects you, that you think about, for days after the film ends. And so that's something that I think is is definitely relative, and I think the challenge that streaming has for us is not what's available to people at home. Because so basically, a different way of saying it is the quality of home entertainment has risen in the last 5 years. Okay, great. But that's not really what's hurting us. What's hurting us is the filmmakers. Like, for example, I was incredibly okay. So here's an example. You asked me what wrinkles my butt. Um, Apple TV released this movie, which turned out to be not as good as I had hoped. But they made this movie with Brad Pitt and George Clooney called Wolves.
Wolf.
Yeah, Wolves plural. And it was okay. It was good. I mean, they're my two favorite actors. I just absolutely love both of them. But Apple TV had a plan to release it in movie theaters, and then at the last minute pulled it. And so that's a great example. We didn't suffer because Mr. and Mrs. Jones could watch it at home. We suffered because Mr. and Mrs. Smith couldn't buy tickets to see it at the movie theater. You know what I mean? So the people who were coming out to the movies had one less choice that weekend. So it's really the quantity of good wide releases is the number one issue. But I disagree with the assessment that there's that people don't go out anymore. They go out when there's movies to see.
Well, good on you. I think it's good that you rebound to some of our, because I'm not an expert on everything, and I like to
Sure.
be corrected by an expert
Sure.
if I'm going to be
A great
corrected.
example is right now we have a movie coming out in a couple of weeks called Wicked, and we already have literally I have 4 screens in Lidditz alone that are sold out. The first show in IMAX out of 420 seats has 387 seats sold, and that's at almost a $20 ticket. So when there's a compelling story that people want to see, they come out for it.
Do
I
you think that
100% agree with that. I
Go ahead,
actually
Alex.
wanted to, yeah, I just wanted to jump in here because, um, I don't go to the theater as much as I probably should, but one of the recent movies that really stood out to me, and I always feel like it's a good sign when you watch a movie and you walk out of the theater and you're thinking about it and days go by and you're still thinking about that movie. And
Right.
for me, one of the recent examples was that new movie that Demi Moore put out called The Substance. And
Yeah.
I knew nothing. Okay, let me just say, I knew nothing
Right.
about what this. I didn't. I went in completely blank. I didn't watch the trailer. I just heard she was doing this kind of movie, but like it didn't really tell me much, and
Right.
I was just stunned. First of
Right.
all, I love horror movies, especially body horror movies. But I thought this movie had, other than the great cinematography and practical effects, I thought it had something to say about our obsession as a culture with staying young and staying beautiful, especially for women. And I thought it was just a fantastic movie, and I kept thinking about it. So I don't know how well that movie did, but I think you're right. There's something to that thing about stories. I also think a lot of people are getting burnt out on superhero movies because also a lot of them are just really lackluster. Maybe Deadpool and Wolverine was a bit of an anomaly. Obviously, a lot of people went to see that movie. They had an incredible marketing campaign backed by the two principal actors who clearly have a lot of chemistry with each other, and they kind of built up that movie over a course of many, many months. So I think there was a lot of factors involved with the success of that. But I'm just bent
I
out.
enjoyed that. I enjoyed Deadpool Wolverine for about 20 minutes, and
That's
then I
because
got tired of it.
you're too
Yeah.
old.
It was just
You're too old. You're not the
one
audience.
gag, yeah, one gag after another. All right. There's another Disney reference. A lot of inside
Yeah.
commentary. I mean, that was clever. Fourth wall. You don't see that broken very often. But then it was like, what are you gonna do next? You're done. It's like one giant gag reel.
Well, I tell you
Essentially.
what, it's been out on streaming for a while now, and I brought it back to my theater, and it's Sunday afternoon. But last night at this time, there was 25 people who paid to come see Deadpool in the theater on the big screen. That's how that movie sticks with the younger audience.
Maybe it's the new Rocky Horror Picture Show, where people are come in dressed and reenact some of the bits there.
You know,
I,
people
yeah, go
people
ahead.
ask me to bring out Rocky Horror Picture Show, and there's a movie theater I don't want to say the name of it, but there's another theater near me, and I always say that would be a great idea for them. They should do that. They should do a midnight show. Like, I don't want to do it because I remember when I went to Rocky Horror Picture Show in New York City as a kid. We trashed that place. I mean, we got high and threw rice at the screen, and we spilled it was just absolute chaos. And now as a theater owner, like, oh, that's the last thing I want.
It's like playing Stairway to Heaven in the guitar store, right,
Right,
Alex?
right.
You don't play Stairway to Heaven. The other thing that I'm curious about is that I know there are a lot of pressures for a lot of different businesses in the media business, including motion pictures, streaming, etc. Do you think that the streaming services like Paramount Plus and Max from HBO, Warner Brothers, et cetera, do you think they're kind of eating each other alive, self-alive? They're realizing, well, this is what everybody wants, and we can grab a little more money now, and maybe we're stealing a little bit of the thunder from the motion picture industry. I think they're feeling some kind of a backlash from that now, and just a genuine feeling about it.
Well, I think one of the things that worked out really well for us with COVID, if you had to find a silver lining, is that, like, so around 2018, I built this soapbox that I stood on for 2 years, telling studios, to stop releasing so many movies on streaming because you're not going to make the money. And then COVID came and everybody had to release their movies on streaming because there were no theaters to play them in. Um, and what they learned was that we can't make any money at streaming. Like, the only place to make our money back on movies is in movie theaters. So what I always say is when you make a movie now, one of these larger mainstream blockbusters, you're either making it to make money, in which case you're releasing it theatrically and focusing on a successful theatrical release, or you're making it to get subscribers, in which case you're going to take a bath on the budget, but you're hoping that your platform gains an additional million subscribers. And there's value for the streamers. There's value in that. I'm not trying to be cute about it. Sometimes that's what they want is, more, and that's obviously what Apple decided with Wolves. But I do think that they are beginning to learn, like you said, eating each other alive. And what I think was interesting was Disney is an incredible pain in the ass to deal with, but they are incredibly smart. And one of the things that I was most impressed with the last couple of years, Disney is the first streaming service that I've observed that has successfully used their Disney Plus platform to keep their Disney Marvel universe front of mind in between Marvel releases. So they got these great, series on Disney Plus that take place in the Marvel universe, and they sometimes are a continuation of an existing Marvel movie, or they're a prequel to a Marvel movie, or they somehow tie in. Deadpool is a great example. Someone, if you didn't keep up with the Disney Plus shows, you wouldn't have gotten some of the references, in Deadpool. And that, I think, is a really positive. Now what you're talking about to me is the gold ring, which is use the platforms at home so that people are watching your shows all week, and then on Saturday night they go out to the multiplex to see the new release, that ties together the plot from that last show. So I thought Disney, like, kudos to them again, for really nailing it in terms of, like, a good positive way to use your platform to increase subscription but also support the theatrical division.
That's a good point. But at the same time, if they're not applying good mental prowess in how they do things, like the folks at Paramount, they became weak and they got
Right,
bought.
right,
And does that
right.
mean that we're going to suffer from Paramount product not being up to snuff to the way we're used to
Yes,
seeing it?
yes, it
The
does.
answer is yes. Okay,
Yes.
I got it.
But I guess it is interesting. I'm waiting, and it hasn't happened as quickly as I thought, but you're certainly starting to see it. I think right now that we can't continue to have, I mean, obviously we can, but I don't think it makes sense that we're going to continue to have so many platforms. I think, Netflix needs to buy one, somebody needs to buy one, Apple needs to buy Hulu. I know Hulu's owned by ESPN and Disney and that whole gang, but maybe Disney needs to buy Paramount Plus or something. But I think there will be, and I think there should be consolidation. I know usually a good art person would prefer diversification, but I think that in this case, it's kind of like TV. Like I'm sure you remember, like when we were kids, right? There was four channels, right? And, we grew up in New York City, and there was ABC, NBC, and then over there down at the end of the road, I think there was a Fox channel, and then there was PBS, and that's what we chose from. Um, and then there went to be 65,000 channels, and that was too many. And it kind of comes in, and I think that's what streaming has to go through that process.
So you think most of what we're seeing is a correction, and it's going to settle into some kind of a pendulous motion where releases come regularly and they're not eating each other alive. It's just a dog eat dog world out there in the motion picture industry.
Well, it is, but the thing that I have going, the thing that the movie industry has going for it, that what I take comfort in whenever my bank asks me difficult questions about our many loans, what I always come back to is, listen, these movie studios are all owned by publicly held companies, which means that they all have shareholders and stockholders and people who are not going to tolerate the studios not making money. And clearly what was shown from 2020 to 2022 is that the like heads and shoulders above everything else, the way to make money is to release your product in movie theaters. So the degree to which studios can, or I should say, the degree to which studios are interested in making money for their shareholders, that's better for me. And so, that I sort of take comfort in those shareholders holding everybody accountable.
Sure. Alex, you have any questions, or are we getting any questions in from our
Yes,
huge audience out there?
Absolutely. Questions are stacking up. So let's go to the first question. The first question is coming from our friend Mark Giuliani here in Lewis, Delaware. And he's asking, how are movies delivered to theaters?
Interesting. Well, I'm very fortunate that we built our theater in '06, which the reason why I say fortunate is because we were among the last people, or we got in just in time to experience 35 millimeter films, which were delivered in cans and left on the sidewalk. And then as digital became more common, they would send hard drives about the size of a dictionary. And that hard drive, we would take it to each individual auditorium and load it into our system. And then in recent years, and I want to say it's been the last 5 or 6 years, movies are now downloaded overnight by satellite. So with some exceptions, like if it's a special, like an old classic or something, sometimes they still send us a hard drive. But 9 out of 10 movies are delivered by satellite. So we get a notice, we get an email in the morning that says, "Hey, last night we downloaded whatever new movie." And then when we receive that download, we can ingest it in whichever theaters. So we have 15 screens, for example, in Wilmington, and we can download that. The movie gets ingested by satellite, and we can download it into whatever auditorium we're planning to play it in. So it comes by satellite, to answer your question.
Alex, we have some more stuff coming on, or any people that are waving, saying hi?
Let's go to the next question. The next question comes from, I've lost my screen here, sorry.
While you're looking that up, I just want to add, because it's interesting to people, for Mark's question, it gets delivered by satellite. I ingest it and then send it to each auditorium, and I can send it as soon as I get the contact or the content, but it is protected by a timestamp digital, it's called a key. So I get the content by satellite, and then a couple days later, I can download that content without a key, but I can't watch it without a key. So we get the content and we confirm that it was ingested, and then we get a key. And when we download the key, it's time stamped. So we call unlock the movie. It'll open the movie closer to the release date. But this allows us to make sure everything is technically prepared a few days prior to opening. But it's supposed to crack down on piracy, and it prevents crooked theater owners from selling tickets early or anything like that. I just thought the key is usually an interesting detail to add to that conversation.
Yeah, we used to get a lot of back in the radio days, early days, for your consideration.
Yeah.
We were on one of the lists of the people that were able to, after SAG folks were allowed to vote on the movies.
Yeah.
And a lot of them got abused. So
Right.
I can see why they would watermark as technology became available. Because, being able to see something before the public sees it tends to get people upset. Alex, do you have anything else going on?
Yeah, let's go to the next question. This one's coming from me, actually. How are you navigating the world of rapidly changing consumer behavior where the home theater experience is good enough? I think we sort of touched on that, but
We just continue, as we always have, to um, hold ourselves to the highest standard in terms of providing, like, so for example, our number one company motto is everyone cleans, which it's tangentially related to, was it Four Seasons? What hotel is it that has never walked past a problem? Never walked,
Ritz
nobody.
Carlton has that up in their hallway.
Ritz Carlton, yeah. So I sort of stole that idea from them, and the idea is whether it's me or the kid, the 14-year-old that just started last week, nobody walks past popcorn on the floor. We thoroughly clean our theaters, and that's all related to navigating the home. The home theatrical experience, as we touched on before. You measure your screens in inches, I measure my screens in feet. That's a cute, funny thing to say, but the reality is, like, we are
nobody walks
offering
past popcorn on the
a
floor.
we thoroughly clean our theaters, and that's
Sorry
Someone's
about
got an
that.
open speaker.
Mitchell wanted
Yeah,
to echo that point, wanted to
I
really.
went to Makana and it was repeating. So sorry about that.
No problem. So we are competing with we are providing an experience that you can't get at home, but the very first thing you have to do is make sure there's no negative indicators. You know what I mean? So, as soon as somebody walks in and it looks messy, or like whenever I'm, talking to an usher about who's getting ready to clean the theater, I always remind them, like they're sick of hearing it. I always remind them, check the cup holders, because they go in and everybody sweeps the floor and everybody mops around sodas. But if you're a lazy usher, you might walk right past a cup holder. Well, there's nothing grosser than sitting down in the movie and trying to put your soda in a cup and there's like an empty wrapper, or God forbid, like an empty tissue. That's just gross. Nobody wants that. So one of our priorities is keeping all of our theaters crispy clean.
What's our next question?
Our next question is coming from Mark Giuliani in Lewis, Delaware. Do you see a time when large venue theaters will be converted to sports bars with gambling?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think that anybody who's smart would entertain the idea of diversifying reasons for people to come to your place. I mean, I'm not knowledgeable about gambling, so I can't really speak to that trend. But certainly, for example, this weekend, IMAX played the big Penn State game on the big screen. And, the only thing missing from that is the ability to bet on it. And we serve alcohol at two of our theaters, and we're in the process of building a bar at our third theater. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that live events over the last 10 years have gotten increasingly, they have become an increasingly important part of our offerings. And I think that that's something that any smart theater owner would embrace. I love it. I love the live events. We do them whenever we can.
Penn, we're here in essentially a Zoom meeting that's being broadcast on YouTube eventually, which will be turned into a podcast. What are the different ways that we could use this technology that we're seeing, the gallery Brady Bunch picture, in one of your theaters to hold a meeting about? It could be a town meeting, it could be a tech meeting, it could be a corporate meeting, it could be some organization. Wouldn't that be another interesting use of your facilities, because you're already hooked up with all this digital technology?
We do that all the time. We're currently doing that. So what the most common use of that is, you rent a theater and you bring 100 employees, and then you have the boss who's in a different country and the COO who's in LA, and you get your leadership team on the screen, and maybe you've rented another screen in San Antonio, and maybe you've rented another screen in Washington or wherever, and then that way the boss can speak to everybody directly. And or even, like, keeping it a little bit more simple and frankly more common is, people rent our theater all the time to hold a meeting in the morning, um, to talk to their employees and present information on the big screen when they want to get everybody out of the office, to create a little bit of a special environment, to discuss everything and drive their message home. So yeah, that's another example of, like, diversifying your building. And if all you're like, and I think most theater owners are pretty good at understanding, using their theaters for a variety of things. But I think some of the theater owners who are digging their heels in and only showing movies, I think that's short-sighted, and I think it's contrary to the spirit of the movies, which is bringing people together and being the last place in any given community where you can get people from all different walks of life, under one roof and have a shared experience.
Yeah, I'm for all of that except death by PowerPoint. I'm not into that. You see lots of casualties when you go to that.
Right.
What's our next question, Alex?
Our next question is one of mine. I notice a lot of theaters do not have HDR or Dolby Vision. Is this a matter of practicality with respect to upgrading to very expensive projectors?
Yes. But then there's also another element, which is Dolby has some kind of exclusive deal with AMC. So there is a lot of their technology that's just not available to anybody other than AMC, which I feel like if I was richer, I would hire a lawyer to poke some holes in that. It feels, at worst, it's illegal. At best, it's sketchy, and it makes me dislike the guys at Dolby.
Ouch. There you go.
I've said it before. It's not news.
Okay, well, I mean, that's keeping it real, and that's what we're all about here on the program. Alex, we have any more comments from people out there?
Yeah, we got another
wanna
one
know?
here from Hershey Trivedi in Daytona Beach. Are you familiar with audio description?
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad somebody asked that. Um, are you talking about open captions? That's what I'm familiar with. And we have not ventured full on into audio descriptions, which I guess might be having somebody narrate what's happening on screen. But open captions, which includes dialogue and some audio description as well. I'm a huge proponent of that. I have an entire theater in our Wilmington location theater. Dedicated to open captions. So on any given day, you can see at least one, if not two or three, open caption titles available. And in Lidditz is a little trickier, but I have a lot of open caption movies, and what I've done in Lidditz is I've established with a lot of our local retirement communities and our local deaf and hard of hearing offices. I've personally visited them and connected with them so that I literally have almost like a request line. I mean, I got an email the other day from a woman who said, I want to see the new Tom Hanks movie. This is a woman that I interact with frequently. So I knew who she was, so she didn't have to explain herself. She said, "Hey, Penn, I really want to see that Tom Hanks movie, but the open caption time doesn't work for me. Would you be able to pop in a show on Tuesday?" And of course, I can't always make that work, but 9 times out of 10, I can. And then I said, while I'm talking to you, when do you want to come see Wicked? Like, what day would work for you? Because if you're gonna like go out of your way to ask me, I'm gonna try to help and try to make that right. And again, that's something that again, going back to the question about how to compete with home theaters, is having an unparalleled level of customer service. So Lauren, I won't say her last name because it's public or whatever, but Lauren is going to come see here with open captions on Tuesday, and there's an open caption title for Wicked that's scheduled because I asked her when do you think you and your family want to come see Wicked, and so I think it's a really important part of it falls into the category of accessibility and making sure that everybody in our community can see the movies that everybody's talking about. If the whole world is talking about Oppenheimer and Barbie, but your friends who are deaf or hard of hearing can't enjoy it, then that's a disservice to them. So we're all about accessibility, and it's it's something I wish I could do even more of. There's definitely limitations on that, but it's something I'm really excited about personally, and we've really worked hard on it. On our website, I explain to all the people, anytime anybody reaches out to me, we have a tab that you can open that literally shows you the full schedule just of open caption shows. So you don't have to look through a haystack to try to find a needle. You can see when the OC shows are.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
is a
my
subject that is near and dear to our hearts, and we're so happy that you feel the same way because we have a lot of our regulars are, have the similar considerations, and the fact that you reach out to them and talk to them. And speaking on that subject, do you do it like a podcast? Do you have a way that people can interact with you? I think I'm soft selling this into your promotion.
Thank you. Yes. Well, right. I appreciate that. Thanks. I actually do. We have the Penn Cinema podcast, which is absolutely ridiculous. Um, and I don't recommend anybody bother listening to it. But the more I try to keep people from listening to it, the more they listen. And it's co-hosted by me and a guy who I met in the lobby. He came into the lobby. His name's David Moulton. He's one of my best friends nowadays. But when I first met him, I was the on-duty manager, and this guy came into the lobby dressed up as Optimus Prime, and I was like, but not like the cool way, not like, with one of those super slick plastic costumes that he paid $5,000 for. I'm talking like he got the refrigerator box and painted it yellow and duct taped it. It's like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous costume. And so I was like, I got to meet this guy. So I introduced myself and we were chatting, and there was a bunch of us standing around him. And he goes, I told my mom about my costume because I thought she would be proud of me. And instead she goes, David, this is why you're still single. And I thought, if a guy can make fun of himself like that in a room full of strangers, that is a friend of mine. And then so we got to be good friends. And then years later, we started that show, I think in 2018 or 19. We've done 200, I think 76 shows. We've only missed a handful of weeks in the last few years. And so he's my co-host. It's the Penn Cinema podcast. I compare it a lot. Like, remember that car show, Click and Clack?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, and it's kind of like Mad Magazine. I think Mad Magazine is the best analogy because on the one hand, it's completely ridiculous, and all we do is make fun of each other and laugh. But on the other hand, I mean, I am a theater owner, and he is a super fan. So we do have, between the two of us, quite an interesting knowledge base and quite an interesting take on the movies. So it ends up being a lot of fun. But I always tell people, if you want like real movie news, you definitely should go to somewhere else.
Well, other than that, because now I'm that much more curious about what you guys do there. How do they
Right.
reach out again to get to that?
Penn Cinema podcast is available anywhere that you get podcasts. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. If you listen to podcasts, whatever platform you're currently using, I think we host ours on Podbean, is where we originally posted, but it's available everywhere.
Yeah, we do the same thing. Alex, we're all over the place, aren't we?
We are, yeah. We're all over social media, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all those places.
We're the new kids on the block. That's why we have 126 subscribers.
Beautiful.
We're working our way up the charts here.
Well, you're ahead of us because we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years, and we've always said we should do like video, with ours. We should have like YouTube, and then we record the show, and then by the time we're done recording the show, we're both tired and we leave.
Yeah, and in his best Optimus Prime voice, he should say, "Smash subscribe."
Right.
Whatever he has to do. That's the best way. By the way, on that subject, first of all, I'm glad you have fans like that. Tell them to check out over at Disney World. They have a Transformers display there, and they've got a Decepticon that just stands there it's in full uniform and just insults people as they come up to him. Totally insults them, and it's like so anti-Disney. It's hilarious to watch. You got to check it out. It's on TikTok all the time. But it's like, who are you? What's up with that scar? That hairs look. You are a Decepticon. They got all those voices. I love that. I'm glad you're into that because that's the whole thing that makes all of this fun. Alex, do you have any more questions to wrap up the question?
I actually have a couple more questions here, so we'll go to this one. And my question is, well, it's a bit of a two-parter here, but what makes really good popcorn for a movie-going experience? And the other one, and I want you to think about this, because I know there's more than one Penn Cinema. How hard would it be to add the letter S to the word cinema and have Penn Cinemas?
The poor guy just got a new logo. Give him a break, will you?
Well, it's really funny, right? Yes, thank you, Mitchell. It's really funny because it's actually a pet peeve of mine when people refer to Penn Cinemas, and people have done it since the day we opened. And when we opened, I would tell people there's only one cinema, so don't try making it Penn Cinemas. And now there's 3 of them, and I have less of a good reason for not wanting it. But I don't really have a good answer for your question except that I'm stubborn. I don't know. And
the S is silent.
Right, yes, and invisible. It's invisible, which is why it's silent. The popcorn, I think, I mean, there's two levels to this. The first level is the reason why movie theater popcorn in general is better than home popcorn is because,
It has
it's
crack cocaine in it, right?
yes, yes. Well, I didn't know if everyone was comfortable with that, but yes, it has a lot of cocaine in it. And that Coke is boiled in hot oil, and I think the oil is what the trick is that, when you make it in the microwave or anything like that, it's just not the same. But I think what makes it good is using good quality ingredients, and we I hate to say this. It's not a story that like is uplifting or anything like that, but like we have a local company that sells popcorn, and we were like, oh well, we should definitely, everybody says buy local, and everybody says like locally sourced and all this kind of stuff. So we switched over to his popcorn. We didn't tell anybody. We just did it. And out of the blue, we started getting complaints from our customers like, what, this popcorn's gross. I don't like this popcorn. And it was fascinating because I was not really sure that, like, I kind of thought like corn is corn. But it's not, it turns out. And so we serve Orville Redenbacher's corn, which is what most movie theaters serve. And we use coconut oil to pop it, which is what most movie theaters use. I can sit here and tell you a lot of really special things about Penn Cinema, and our popcorn is really good, but our popcorn is the same popcorn that everybody else uses too. So
I like GMO in my popcorn. It
yeah, there you
helps
go.
me grow an extra
oil.
chin
Okay,
under.
I'm shocked at the coconut oil thing because I've always wondered about, because I've always tried to replicate the experience of popcorn, movie theater popcorn, and it never tastes the same. I like butter. I've tried olive oil. I've tried. I don't know if I've tried coconut oil, but
What are you cooking it in?
I've got. What do I got? I have like a popcorn maker. It's a decent one.
No, it's
But
not.
I guess maybe it's not good enough. Maybe.
It's
No,
definitely
I'm
not good
using
enough.
someone turned me on to Amish popcorn. That's what I'm using right now.
Lame.
Okay, so I
Really?
should
And
go
you
back
say
to the
that,
Orville.
and you're based in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, the heart of Amish country.
Okay, so connect the dots to the story that I just told you 4 minutes ago,
Okay, I got it.
right?
Do you get a lot of Amish people coming into your theaters, or do they get,
We do.
oh
No, we do. We get Friday night Mennonites,
no,
and
Friday night Mennonites?
yeah,
I'm
yeah, they
sorry, I'm
come
getting
out.
very red.
Yeah, and we actually, I mean, this is a true story that I'm going to tell you. We get, excuse me, we get Amish who come, and they will sneak behind our building and change out of their Amish clothes into English clothes, and then walk around the front of the building and come in to see a movie. And on more than one occasion, they have left without collecting their clothes that they changed out of. So we have absolutely picked up Amish clothing in the rear parking lot.
And now the Amish police know exactly what they're doing. So,
No,
you
they know
completely
because they have
destroyed
that Rumspringa period where they can go do whatever they want and experiment with leaving the faith.
Isn't there a movie about that?
Yeah,
The Hunger Games, or what is that? The
right.
other one?
Witness, something like
Yeah,
that.
that's it. I got it. Alex, you got to help us out. More questions.
Yeah, the next question is from Mark Giuliani. And Mark Giuliani is asking, what days of the week and times of day are the most popular for people to visit the theater?
Okay. So one thing that we've done in the last coming out of COVID is we've been very aggressive with our pricing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So our Saturday night tickets have gone up in price, but we have equally been aggressive in offering Mondays. All children are $8. Tuesday, everybody's $8. Wednesday, seniors are $8. So we've been very aggressive in increasing our costs during prime time and promoting discount opportunities. 7 days a week, anybody before noon, tickets are $8. So anytime somebody wants to complain about the price of a ticket, we tell them grab that show at 11:50 a.m. because it's only $8. But I know that's not your question, but I had to sort of work that into answering the question because the most popular time to see a movie is Saturday night. And then Friday night, of course, is up there, and Sunday, the first show, the first matinee is on Sunday. Those are sort of your top three windows. But right behind there, and some weeks, especially if it's a movie that appeals to an older audience, the Tuesday discount day, that can compete and be as competitive, or sometime in a rare case more competitive than like even a Saturday night. In terms of attendance, it frequently is a higher number because we might the gross is lower, but the attendance is higher. And then the other thing that people often find interesting is I can break down the calendar year. So Black Friday is our single busiest day, the day after Thanksgiving. 4th of July is the busiest weekend. Between Christmas and New Year's is the busiest week, and summer is the busiest season. And that's sort of how that, when we look at our calendar, that's sort of what we see.
So the trends haven't changed. People still go to the theater the same they have for the last 100 years since Edison made it popular.
Right.
Penn, I got a question for you because, and I'll just speak to what they're doing here in Canada because they're getting a lot of flack for it. But Cineplex Theaters, which is a massive chain in Canada, is getting a lot of heat for kind of self-sabotaging the experience or self-sabotaging their business in the sense that it's already it's expensive to go to the theater now, but they're now, when you buy tickets online, for some reason they tack on this service fee, and nobody seems to understand why. And now, if I walk into the theater and buy that same ticket, I don't get charged a service fee. So why are they charging me $2 or $3 extra for a service fee online? What's the rationale behind that?
Well, first of all, isn't that everybody? I mean, that's not just a Canadian thing. I think that's every movie theater in America does that. Every venue in America does that. The local playhouse does that. The local discotheque does that. Like, if you want a ticket in advance to make sure that you get a seat, then you buy it online and you pay $1 or $2 or whatever. So, for example, Fandango charges a service fee, and if you buy tickets off of PennCinema.com, we charge a service fee, but we make our service fee less than Fandango because we're trying to incentivize people. We want them to buy their tickets directly from us. But I think there's a lot to this, but so I'll just give the face value answer. The face value answer is you're paying a fee for being sure that you have a ticket to the show that you want to see. Now, the underlying question is, like, how much should that fee be, and how, like, so for example, I recently bought tickets from Ticketmaster, and I paid a convenience fee, and then I paid a handling fee, and then I paid and in some cases your ticket might be $200 and you have another $100 worth of service fees. So I think the movie business, at least in the competitors who I keep track of, they're all in the same range as me, which is, we charge a service fee of $1 or $2 per ticket, and that covers a lot of things. But the spirit behind that is making sure that you're able to get a ticket you don't have to come into the theater to get your ticket. We were joking just a few weeks ago because I was remembering we had ticketing kiosks. Before online ticketing was really popular, we had ticketing kiosks that we put on the sidewalk in front of the theater, and we thought we were like cutting edge because anybody could drive to the theater at any time of day and buy a ticket, to the movies. And we thought we were really, you know what I thought we were. I don't want to say it on your show. I would say it on my show, but I'm not going to say it on your show. So we thought we were pretty special, and of course now, people want to be able to buy as soon as the thought crosses their mind. They want to be able to buy something. I think what Cineplex might be, and I'm not at all up to speed on what they're doing, and certainly not what they're doing in Canada, but maybe is there pushback because the fees are ridiculous. But also, another level of this question is there is a big movement in the United States, and I'm making that face because I'm trying to think where it's at in the legislative process. But there are some senators who have a bill for transparency. They call it the upfront ticketing price. So in other words, when you go online and see a ticket for something and it says it's $18, it has to be $18. It can't be when you check out, oh, here's a secret $10 fee. You know what I mean? And it's mostly a consequence of Ticketmaster, ripping people off. So when you click on a concert ticket and it says $150, it has to be $150. So if there's service fees, the ticket should be 120 plus $30 worth of service fees, so that I think it's 150. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my take
Yeah,
on it.
it does. And actually, I didn't really think about that, to be honest with you. I just got immediately angry when I saw an extra service fee on there. But no, you're right. There's a reason for everything. Obviously, it sounds like there's a valid business case for that. And actually, in fairness to Cineplex too, because now, of course, everybody has to have their own subscription service. Cineplex, you can pay $10 a month, which is actually a reasonable fee, and they give you a substantial discount on not only the first ticket that you buy, but the second ticket that you buy is also heavily discounted. You get one free movie a month, and they actually completely get rid of the service fee if you're a member. So, like, if you love movies and you love going to the theater, I don't know if you actually, that's my next question. Do you have some kind of membership thing for people that are really into movies to make it worthwhile, a little extra incentive for them to just keep coming back like every single week?
Well, we offer an experience that's good enough on its own that people want to keep coming back. But yes, on top of that, we also have a loyalty program to yes, thank you. We also have a loyalty program to reward customers, and it's not better or worse than anybody else's loyalty program. For as cutting edge as we are on a lot of things, we're not cutting edge on our loyalty program, but I'm proud of it. Our customers like it, and it gets used really well. So,
Alex, do you fly Spirit Airlines by any chance?
No, never.
Okay, I'm just checking to see if you get angry. They nickel and
exactly.
dime you for everything.
right.
Well, and actually, Penn, my question to you is, as a customer, how do you obviously listen to your customers, but what is the best way for people to voice feedback and tell you what they like, what they don't like, what they want to see more of or less of?
Well,
Like, how do people do that?
that's one of the great things about being an independent theater. My staff knows anytime they're dealing with any upset customer, they give them my email address, which is super easy to remember. It's pen@penncinema.com. And I tell anybody I want to hear the good, bad, and the ugly. And so for an independent theater, you can usually find your way to talk to the owner, or at least the director of operations or the general manager. Social media is a good place to start. But I can tell you from experience that if you just randomly pass like a post that like your theater sucks, nobody's going to respond to that, But if you post a picture that or a comment, like I dealt with a guy the other day, you post a comment that says, I was in theater 3 last night, and I was sitting in the third row and the seat didn't recline. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. Well, let's get on that, and I can have my team go fix that seat. And thanks for letting me know. Here's 2 passes, to come back another time, and we'll try to make it right.
I'll confirm that Penn has always responded to any email I've sent to him, even when I ghosted him and I had some other name that I was using, Elmer Fudd or whatever else. He still answered within a day.
Right.
Mitch,
So
we got
I'll
one more
confirm that.
question. We
All
got
right,
one more question coming in here. So let's go to the next question here. And this one comes from Walt Palmer in Lewis, Delaware. And Walt is asking, I used to operate a discount second run movie house at the beach, $2.50 a seat. The movie distributor made the admission, and I made dollars on concessions. Has that practice changed?
I'm not sure I understand what's he trying to say. He's trying to say that he paid all that money back to the studio. That doesn't sound right.
What's
But
statute of limitations on that intellectual property? That's what
I
Walt's
don't.
probably asking.
I think what he might be asking, and I apologize if this is not correct, but a lot of times there's a sort of urban legend, a myth that, theaters don't make money on movies, they make all their monies on concessions. And that's just not true. We wouldn't be open at all if it weren't for both. It's a little bit misleading, and a lot of times people try to get me to donate movie tickets, and then they say, "Oh, well, you'll make money on concessions." Like, okay, well, that's ridiculous. That's like going into a restaurant and asking for a free drink because you'll make money when I buy a pizza. It's just we're selling tickets. and we're selling food, and we expect to make money off of both of them so that we can pay our bills. And it continues. Maybe this is what he was asking. It continues to be very expensive to do business with the big studios. The film rent for the larger movies, the titles that we've been discussing here today, are really expensive. So it is true that I spend a ton of money to provide the product, but it's not true that, oh, I make all my money at the concession stand. It's really much more integrated than that. It's really, you can't have one without the other.
Well, I'll tell you what, thank you very much, Penn, for being here with us and being so transparent and honest about things. I still, the thing that's sticking in my head is the Amish people sneaking into the theaters and lit. It's like, for some reason, there's a movie there somewhere. There's a plot. There's some
There
kind
it
of,
is. There it
have you
is.
ever thought of being in the movies? Producing an independent film or doing something like that?
I'm not smart enough to write a movie, but I have often said that somebody should make a movie about running a movie theater, because we get fresh stories every single day.
Absolutely. And it would make a great TV reality show. Think
Yeah.
about it. It'd be great. Alex, how do people reach out to us? If we got new ways that people can let us know what they think of the program, or they have questions about it. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can join our Discord community. Speaking of community, that's a great way to provide us feedback. And if you haven't done that, you can scan the QR code that's showing up over my left shoulder here. And I'll leave this up on the screen for a little bit. If you scan that, that will take you to the invitation page, and you can get into our Discord server and chat with us after the show, and tell us about what guests you want to have on the show in the future, and also what other topics you want us to cover as well. Of course, you can email us for feedback as well by going to thelastangrydj.com/contact. We got a web form there. You can submit any questions, and we'll read your emails as well. And of course, we're on social media. You can find us by the same name of the show on all platforms as well.
And don't forget to smash that subscribe button. I got to get that in there. Alex gets mad at me when I do this, but can't they also buy us a cup of coffee? Isn't it like
Yeah,
Patreon
they absolutely
or
can, Mitch. They can support the show by going to patreon.com/TheLastAngryDJ. It's patreon.com/TheLastAngryDJ and become what we call a coffee supporter. So that's $2 a month.
And we would really appreciate it if you went into a Penn theater, Penn Cinema theater, and bought a large tub of Orville Redenbacher
Absolutely.
with the coconut oil on it and brought it out to us. I'm sure it'll last long enough for us to get a couple of bites in there. Something about that. Penn, thank you so very much.
Thank
I know
you.
this is an unusual show, but it's unusual only in that we're all unusual people that we have commentary, including
Love it.
Our guest are here. So thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you in the future and your continued success. I think you're truly an innovator in the theater going experience. And I know from a local perspective that I love going to the show here. I would be like, don't you have a new one in Huntington?
Yeah, in
Pennsylvania?
Huntington Valley.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huntington Valley, a great area. It's the suburbia of
Yep.
Philadelphia, sort of like just outside the main line.
Yep.
So that'd be cool. And once in a while, I like to go up to Lidditz to get some shoe flat pie and enjoy a shot, or go up. Isn't there? Claire Brothers has that audio experience where they do like.
Yeah, they
around-
I mean, they have a massive production. I don't believe there's any public attractions to it, but people seem to like driving by it and oohing and ahhing over it.
Yeah, and doing the rock scissors thing. So, thank you so very much for being here. We appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
Penn, thank you. Enjoy your the rest of your day off. I know that you live. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle
That's it.
to own a theater. So
That's
enjoy
it.
your lifestyle, sir. Thank
Thank
you,
you very much.
everybody. We'll see you next time.